Okay, you'll want to open your Bibles to Genesis 21, or you could use, if you were at the service, you can use your bulletin as well. The text is in there. Oop, that's not the right one though. Yep. We're going to start a little later. We're going to start in verse 8. Okay. All right, so today we have Ishmael, and first a shout out to Beth for giving Ishmael a voice and letting us hear that. Thank you, Beth. Because one of the interesting things about Ishmael is if you look at the texts about him, what does Ishmael tell us about himself? Did you notice that as we were reading the text from Genesis? What does Ishmael actually get to say in Genesis? Not a word. Yeah. So, yeah. So it was wonderful to have the monologue in the service because we got to get a perspective from Ishmael himself, which is difficult to do from the Genesis text. We have to read into it, which of course Dr. Cox did as well as she wrote that monologue. But I thought it was a beautiful way to get a perspective from Ishmael of what it's like to be, as Ishmael said, a child caught up in an adult drama, an adult mess, and poor Ishmael is the victim, if you will, or the person who suffers because of that. So yeah, interesting story. So in some ways, Ishmael is a little bit harder, I think, for us to get a handle on than the other characters we've looked at. But let's take a look at the text. We want to notice a few things in there. The first text is the text from worship. That is Genesis 21, starting at verse 8. So we talk about that Isaac grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, who is Ishmael. But look, he doesn't even merit a name in this section. He's just called the son of Hagar the Egyptian. And who else, by the way? Who else is he the son of? Abraham. But we seem to be kind of forgetting that part too, right? So you already start to see, where is this story going? Ishmael is being pushed out. He is not the child of promise. That's Isaac. Ishmael, too bad. So she's, and if you remember, if you heard the monologue, Ishmael had learned to be careful about who? Sarah. So poor Sarah, who we did have sympathy for last week. We got to remember, right? Long gone. We're back to Sarah, the evil one, in this version. But he learned to stay away from Sarah, and I think that's a reasonable thing, as we can see. She's pretty jealous here because she wants to make sure her son, Isaac, is the one who's going to get the promise. He's going to be the fulfillment of the promise. Why might she be extra worried about that? Ishmael is the firstborn. And in this culture, remember, firstborns get the spoils.
I had a question that's been bugging me for 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
Why did Abraham think that a slave from his household was going to inherit? He had the nephew Job. What was it about inheritance laws that would keep Job from inheriting? And
you mean Lot?
sorry, Lot.
Okay, well, Lot, I think, was gone by this time. So we can talk about the Lot story, but Lot kind of got himself in a mess. He got himself in as a pickle. But you're right, Lot would probably have been the most likely if the whole Lot mess hadn't happened. But that was the whole thing where Lot's wife and pillar of salt and Lot's daughters have sex with him. It is a messy, messy story. So so Lot's kind of out of the picture at this point, which is why I think he's going to Eliezer of Damascus as his first thought. As you notice, poor Eliezer, I hope he didn't get his hopes up, because he gets that one mention of, Abraham bargaining with God saying, well, Eliezer of Damascus could be the one. And God says, nope, that's not going to be the one. Your own child is going to be the one. So poor Eliezer got kind of cut out of the picture pretty early. This is an aside, but thinking about elder sons, the text for this past weekend was the prodigal son. And very famous story, right? Most everybody knows the story. So I went to my dad's church. I was in Peoria, Illinois, which was my church growing up. And so Pastor, of course, we read the text from Luke, and then Pastor had a children's sermon. And the children's sermon, he read the same story, but read it from a children's Bible. And so the fascinating thing here to me is what we can do with stories and how we can all interpret stories differently, which to me is part of the theme of what we're doing across these 5 weeks, right? We've got one basic story and we just keep looking at it from all these different perspectives. But this one was interesting. So at the end of the Bible, the little version of the prodigal son from the children's story Bible, the last line was something like this. And so Jesus is happy when we stop doing bad things and do good things. And I'm sitting in my pew saying, there's a lot of conclusions you can come up to for the prodigal son. That is not one of them. That is not the point of the story. So, the prodigal son, you can talk about the lavishness of God's love and how it includes everyone. You can talk about God's pursuit of the lost and how he'll stop at nothing to bring us back, right? You don't get to make it into a little morality thing about doing good and doing bad. That is not the point. So it was just fascinating to me that, here's this children's Bible trying to teach kids, and I understand with children, they do need some basic morality, but please don't do it with that story. A different perspective, but in my opinion, not a very good one. So anyway, back to our